Welcome back to the War Room on the John Fredericks Radio Network, on Real America's Voice, on Newsmax TV, on G News, GTV, and Mandarin throughout the world. Also with a podcast that has over 21 million downloads, and one of the top podcasts in the country, and I think number 30 in the entire world. I want to thank everybody, our distribution partners, particularly the guys today in Denver and in Richmond that are helping us over this holiday weekend to put this on day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday. We're now going to bring on Mayor Giuliani, but I got something. The engine room of the War Room continues to work 24/7. Just sent me a very interesting tweet from Mel Q. Per the President Trump's executive order from 9/12/18, if Biden's fake transition team accepts federal dollars from GSA while knowingly involved in voter fraud, any person associated with this transition can be considered a co-conspirator. Remember, this is all a faux. This is a faux presidency, a faux president-elect. This is all nonsense. Donald Trump won a resounding victory on game day. That would be November 3rd. Our next guest, Rudy Giuliani, is the man in charge of securing that victory and making sure it is not stolen from the American people. We now bring in America's mayor, Rudy Giuliani. Jack Posobiec, my wingman from One America, has been kind enough to come to the War Room today. So, Mayor Giuliani, the mainstream media, once again, is dancing on your grave, which they do every 24 hours, right? This is why you're a resurgent. You're the ultimate honey badger. You do not care. You just keep going forward. They're dancing on your grave now because of the Third Circuit. Walk us through why they're wrong. This is not a catastrophic defeat.
No, actually, it actually helps us because it gives us another vehicle to the Supreme Court. Far better that they decided it quickly than they took 4 weeks and even came out our way. So the reality is, I don't think people understand the strategy. The strategy is to get to the Supreme Court with 3 or 4 different types of claims, all of which come to the conclusion that this election was systemically fraudulent. What I mean by that was it wasn't in 1 state or 2 or 3. It was in 6 or 7 of the most important states, and isolated to the crooked Democratic cities in those states. And they were always counting on this new method of mail-in voting, which had been resisted for 20 years because it's so prone to fraud, and they knew exactly what they could do with it. So basically, they were ready to wipe out almost any margin that he had. And, had we been on the old system, they couldn't have wiped out some of these margins. There wasn't enough room in the absentee ballots, only 400,000. But when you have 2.5 million, 3 million, you can wipe out a big lead. You do it a couple of ways. You print extra ballots, or you quadruple count the ballot. You take the ballot and you put it in the machine 4 or 5 times. Now, I'm not just telling you that. We have about 20, 25 witnesses that will tell you that happened in Pennsylvania and in Michigan, which accounts for the disparity between the number of mail ballots sent out and the number counted that was sent out, because they were counted 4 and 5 times. Unbelievable fraud. Unbelievable. It happened in 6 or 7 different states. It was orchestrated by someone because they did it all the same way. And they were very confident that they could make up almost any lead that he had.
Okay, I want to get back to the 3 or 4 different strategies to get to the Supreme Court and do it expeditiously. Here, I think, is what would be helpful for the audience. The mainstream media said this is all baseless. It's made up. There's nothing here. They call it baseless charges. It's President Trump's baseless charges, his baseless charges. At Gettysburg the other day, you presented witnesses that showed it certainly wasn't baseless. Now, you may argue on the details, but this is certainly not baseless. There is a basis here to go forward and to argue this and to be cross-examined in a court or to be crossed at a hearing by a state legislator. Here's the question. If your evidence is so overwhelming and so big, and this is such a vast scandal, why is it that Republican legislators in Pennsylvania and in Arizona, you've got a thing scheduled for Monday in Arizona, which sounds great, but it's at a Hyatt Regency with a selected group of Republicans. Where are, like, the Republican governor of Georgia? Where's the Republican legislature in Pennsylvania, and where is it? And where's the governor Ducey in the legislature in Arizona? Why are they not saying, they're going, Rudy's right, this is overwhelming, we want to see what he's got for our state, let's call a special session and do this?
Well, I mean, a couple of reasons. First of all, if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt,
No, I
they
don't.
haven't
No,
really
no,
read
no,
beyond
no,
it.
no, I don't. I
You
don't.
don't want to give them the
No, I'm
benefit
not
of
going to give them the
doubt?
benefit.
Okay,
That
well,
we're in war. What are you talking about? The whole republic's here.
They should be there.
What are they doing?
It was
What
totally-
else? What else do they get? They're politicians. What else they got going? No, Rudy, I do not want to give them the benefit of the doubt. So let's start over. So go ahead. Without giving them the benefit of the doubt, what's your next one?
Okay. I don't think Ducey ever really was allied with the president. He's extremely unpopular in his state. He got elected by a 17% margin, but he hardly gets any applause when he comes out. And I don't know what he's got for the president, but he certainly isn't an ally. But the worst part of it is, if he doesn't embrace this, he'll be finished in the Republican Party.
But we
Look,
don't. But we
this
don't.
was an
But
attack,
listen, we
right?
don't need allies. What we need is guys who just want to stand up for the rule of law. What we need is a
Who
governor
are willing to do the right thing, by the way.
want to do the right thing.
Who are willing to do the right thing. They are trying to destroy our political party. That's part of what they're trying to do. If they pull off this election this way, by the way they manipulate the mail ballots, to the tune of millions of mail ballots they can manipulate, and they continue to have control of these crooked cities, we could be ruined as a political party. That's what they'd like to do. They'd like a one-party system. George Soros would love to have a one-party system. And we'd all become internationalists. America no longer would there be America first? It wouldn't even be America second, or third, or fourth. It'd be China first.
Mayor, any political party that does not stand up for the rule of law and for actually counting all fair votes, it should be like the Whigs. It's not the Democrats. This is self-inflicted. They don't have any moral justification for going for it. They should be like the Whigs. This should be like 1858. They should just fade.
Yes.
But that's not a Democrat
thing. The Democrats should be.
Yep. Go ahead.
The Democrats should be splintering apart. They're the ones carrying out the fraud. We're asking them to do the right thing, and they're frightened. I'm not going to say all. I mean, we got some really courageous people. I think they're going to turn around Pennsylvania, the guys who stepped forward and the women who stepped forward. I think they're going to turn around Arizona. I think, and you know what I was told? This will give you an idea of it. I was told by one state legislature, we don't want to be the first one, but we'll be the second. So basically, we're either going to get none or we're going to get four.
Yeah, one falls, they all fall.
I'm telling you that. It's true. They want a leader to follow. So it isn't just them. And they want to know they have a chance to win, so it isn't a futile effort. And they do, because there is overwhelming evidence of fraud in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in Arizona, in Nevada, and in Atlanta. Any one of those, the state legislature quite legitimately could say, the actual vote is Trump by 300,000, Trump by 4, Trump by 100,000 of the honest votes, of the votes that are real votes, not the 4-time in the machine where there's no ballot to even support.
Have you seen this? And Jack Posobiec is going to jump in here a second.
Well, I think he already knows that, Mr. Mayor, how are you doing? Great to talk to you again. Happy Thanksgiving. That I think the cat may have come out of the bag a little bit early on what you guys have in store for the Arizona hearing, because Matt Braynard just tweeted that he is going to present VIP findings in person at your Arizona hearing. Is that right, Mr. Mayor?
Well, okay, I can say yes about that. I can't tell you the full scope of it.
Breaking news.
But look, it's a combination. It's a combination of witnesses and expert testimony, which is the way you do an election fraud case.
Yes.
You always use expert testimony. But I want to emphasize it's witnesses too. We have over 250 affidavits for Michigan alone. We've got about 200 for Pennsylvania. We've got 100 for Arizona. These are human beings. When I say affidavits, these are human beings who are swearing under oath that they witnessed a crime. In some cases, just a few individual frauds. In some cases, one case, he stood there while 100,000 ballots were just thrown in, not examined by any independent person, not even examined by the official of the election commission. He was throwing them in like this. Never even looked at him. He had to know, and to the extent they could see it at all, it had Biden on the top. Biden, 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 Biden. They have stretches that we now can analyze where Biden gets 4,000 votes and Trump gets 8. That's ridiculous.
Are these those spikes? You had a really.
They think we're stupid.
I mean, you had an incredibly poignant moment that I think's been played again and again from your Pennsylvania hearing, where you talked about this spike of Biden votes, this 4 a.m. spike in Pennsylvania. Are we still going to see something like that in Arizona, possibly Maricopa County? I know we've focused on.
Well, you're going to see something like it, maybe not quite as dramatic, but you're going to see that the machines had real difficulty getting back to zero or starting out at zero. And you're going to see in some of the machines an early infusion of votes. And I think I pay attention to the testimony on the machines there. Remember, in Maricopa County, they were using Dominion machines. And for all the propaganda about Dominion is a company that specializes in stealing elections. That's their expertise. Their roots are Venezuelan. They keep denying it. It's absolutely true. I think we'll be able to prove it scientifically that they are using Smartmatic software. And Smartmatic is a company that was founded for Hugo Chavez to fix elections.
I want to go back and Mayor, can we keep you over for a couple minutes in the next segment? But I want to finish.
Sure.
I want to finish here for a second. You just made a statement, and I think this is because we're the activist part of the Trump movement, right? Our listeners, as you know, and the people that from around the world, this is pure MAGA. This is the populist nationalist movement is right here. The question they've got, you just made a statement. Hey, I have 250 affidavits in Michigan, and this is not baseless charges. I have real human beings that are prepared to come forward and take all the abuse of the left. But here's the question. The legislature in Michigan has not scheduled a hearing. The legislature in Arizona, and that in Michigan is controlled by Republicans. In Arizona, controlled by Republicans. In Pennsylvania, you've got heroes like Dawn Kiefer was just on here. Following you is going to be Colonel Mastriano, who you know was a hero the other day at your hearing. They're now passing resolutions to reverse a 1938 law to get them more involved in this. They're trying to talk to leadership over the weekend to extend the session past the 30th so they actually are still a body that can dress with this. These are not This is not George Soros. This is not the Democratic Party. This is not the mainstream media. We can't blame this on anybody. Here's what you just said. Do they think we're stupid? No, sir. They do not think you're stupid. But they think the Republican Party is gutless. They do not think the Republican Party will step up and stand up here in the breach. Why they want to destroy Donald Trump? Why they want to destroy this movement? They think we're smart enough. They don't think we have the stones to sit there and go, we're not going to back down for this. So, Mayor, with all of those, what are you going to do with? You've done a hero's work to get all these affidavits. You and Jenna, Boris, the entire team. I tell you what, we got 30 seconds. Let me take a break here. We're going to come back to you, Mayor. You can cogitate on that response. But no, they think Rudy Giuliani's smart and brave and tough, but they don't think the establishment in these states is smart and brave and tough. They think they're gutless, and that's the problem we have. We're going to return with America's Mayor, the president's lawyer, on War Room Pandemic with Jack Posobiec, Stephen K. Bannon, live from Washington, D.C.
We're taking down the CCP. Spread the word all through Hong Kong. We will fight till they're all gone. We rejoice when there's no more. Let's take down the CCP.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Courage is contagious.
New pandemic.
And it's the new pandemic. And when you talk about courage, you got to talk about America's Mayor, Rudy Giuliani. So, Mayor, understanding you're showing leadership, and here's the leadership you're showing. They can mock and ridicule you. They can say you can't hit a fastball anymore. You've lost a step. Rudy's above his head. He's not a constitutional guy. All of that, right? And you're just relentless. You keep coming. You keep coming. You keep coming. It's pure honey badger, okay? And that's exactly what's needed now: grit and determination. So I want to go back to my question. Is there enough courage in the leadership of the Republican Party in these states to actually, we're on the cusp of securing a great victory, right? Or we're on the cusp of oblivion. This is a binary function, right? There's not any question here. One or the other. What are you telling our audience it takes now, and what can they do to assist you in trying to put a spine into the gutless establishment of the Republican Party in states like Georgia, in Arizona, and in Pennsylvania?
Let the leadership of the party know that this is an absolute necessity for the future of our country, and that it's not going to be forgotten if people are on the wrong side of this. This is one of those things that 10, 15, 20 years from now, people will ask what side were you on. And if you're on the wrong side of this, you're going to be on the wrong side of the Republican Party and the wrong side of history. And I think, people tend to follow a leader. And I think this does come down to getting the first legislature to take a stand and say there was too much corruption in this election. It's quite clear that Biden stole it, and we're going to disqualify him, and we're going to give our votes to Trump. They are perfectly entitled to do that under Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 of the Constitution. People have to go read it. The state legislature runs the presidential election. The state legislature determines the electors. The state legislature determines ultimately if the vote that was given to them to select electors is legitimate or not, and has the right to discount votes that are illegitimate. And then you discount those illegitimate votes properly, and we win Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, easily. We win Arizona and Georgia, which were quite close. I think we win Nevada too. So you don't need all those. You just need 3 of them. If you have Pennsylvania, it takes a lot of guts to do it. But I think if enough go out front, the people who are now frightened will come along, because then they're not going to be standing there all by themselves.
In Wisconsin, Jack Posobiec's been reporting this entire show. He's hearing from guys in the room that there's 19,000 of these IC rejections in Milwaukee County. There's going to be more in Dane County. They just announced that it's going to be sometime on Sunday. They think they'll be finished. What do you do once you get a state like Wisconsin, which the mainstream media is not talking about? And the reason they're not talking about it is we caught them dead to rights on illegal ballots out there. What's your next step? Do you take it to the General Assembly there, or do you go into the court? Where you're the strategist, you're driving this.
Well, you do both, but the courts are so darn political. It's a shame. I mean, the case in Wisconsin in a court is almost an obvious one. You're supposed to have an application for every absentee ballot. And when you count, and this is the law in Wisconsin, who has the strictest absentee law in the country, they almost don't like absentee ballots. They basically say it in their legislation. And they even say in the legislation they want the law strictly construed. So you have maybe 50, 60,000 absentee mail-in votes without an application. The law says you count those out in the county in which they were cast. You do that, and he wins that election by about 40,000 votes. If you just follow the law, if you have the courage to follow the law. So that's why we have to also count on the state legislature, because some of the judges make up the law. In Pennsylvania, the language in the statute says that when you're counting these ballots, both sides have to be present. You know what the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania decided, 5-2, the 5 Democrat judges? That present just means you can be in the room, but they don't have to show you anything. Well, what would be the purpose of being in the room if they didn't show you anything? You're supposed to be there to inspect the integrity of the ballot, but they can put you in the room and hide it from you. That's a ridiculous decision. You only make that decision for political reasons. No lawyer, no rational person would come to that conclusion. I mean, I would be embarrassed to put my name on an opinion like that. Well, that'll get reversed eventually. But that's the lengths that these judges go to out of, I don't know what it is, loyalty to the Democrat Party.
Let me real quickly, because we're burning daylight here. And speaking of burning daylight, the 8th is safe harbor. The 14th, the Electoral College meets in the different state capitals. You're going to go to the Supreme Court. When do you want to go? And you said you had 3 or 4 strategies. What are the three you've got? When do you anticipate going? And, people are sitting there going, hey, the president thinking about going to Georgia next weekend. Isn't that safe harbor like a stake in the ground? It's one we can go past. The 14th, you can't go past. And the president's actually said, hey, if he beats me in the Electoral College on the 14th, I won't concede, but I understand it's time to move on. So when does Rudy Giuliani and the team, when are you going to be arguing in front of the Supreme Court as you see it on Friday the 27th?
Well, it depends on how we get there. If we can get these legislatures to do what they're supposed to do what the evidence suggests, then we'll be in the Supreme Court as defendants, because Biden will surely take us there, right? And if we get right now the two
okay, but hang on, Mayor. This is my point. I got that, but my point is, you don't have in Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Michigan with overwhelming evidence, and even in Georgia, with another Republican legislature, you don't even have a joint meeting set up yet. You have 1 week. We have 10
Yes, we do.
In which state?
We have meetings set up. We have meetings set up in Arizona.
Mayor, that's a meeting with a group of Republicans that are going to sit there like in Gettysburg. It's fantastic. That's not an official, the state legislature.
We're going to put witnesses on so that the public can see the witnesses, and therefore create the kind of pressure that will get the leadership to have to come along. I talked to those leaders. I'm not convinced that will turn into a hearing. Pennsylvania didn't start as a hearing. Pennsylvania started as a private meeting, and we built it into a hearing. So let us keep working all weekend. We've made a lot of progress. Michigan gave us a meeting. Then they took it back. And as soon as they heard about Pennsylvania, they called me up, and now we're going to have a bigger meeting. And now we're going to try to get the meeting from an informal hearing to a formal hearing. So, believe me, if Pennsylvania takes decisive action, they'll all follow very quickly.
Is the buried lead here the safe harbor in the 8th? We're just going to blow by. It's really the 14th. Because this is never all going to get done by the 8th. It just can't. You can't argue to this rate.
It would be better. There's no reason why it can't get done by the 8th, particularly the legislative part of it, where you don't have all those procedural rules that you have in court, where you have to make a motion to dismiss, and you have to make a motion of summary judgment. And although we are going to bring another case, probably within 2 days, that would very quickly go to the Supreme Court as a backup, just in case.
Mayor, you're a hero. Tell people, do you have a new podcast that's going to come out tonight? Your podcasts are must watch. Do you have a new podcast that's coming up today?
Yeah, I have one that I did here yesterday, and it gives you an idea of our strategy. And people have heard a lot about the case in Pennsylvania. They haven't heard a lot about the case in Michigan, and we show them the evidence in the case in Michigan. The podcasts are good because it puts the lie to what the media is saying. We have no evidence. If you were to take 7 or 8 of my podcasts and put them together, we got about 25 witnesses and about 50 documents and pictures. I mean, the evidence is there.
Your podcast.
So this propaganda.
Yeah. Your podcasts are amazing.
The propaganda is overwhelming.
We got about how do people get to the podcast? How do they get you on Twitter? How do they get you on Parler? How do they get to the website? I know you got a great team.
Rudy'sCommonSense.com is my podcast, and Rudy Giuliani for all the rest.
Mayor, you're not just America's hero. I think you're the hero also of the deplorables in the Trump movement and the MAGA movement. You never quit. You never back down.
I love being the hero of the deplorables.
You are the deplorable.
I am so. Some idiot wrote. Some idiot in the Times wrote that, what all these Trump people should be excluded from polite society. And I said, I agree with you. I don't want to be part of the license. I never liked the New York cocktail parties anyway. Bunch of phonies.
You resemble that comment. Mayor Giuliani, thank you so much for
my current book.
Thank you so much for having us on, or coming on, and thank your staff for some time.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right.
Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
Yes, sir.
Mayor Rudy Giuliani. I guess that was supposed to be the Park Avenue.
This turns into the Rudy Giuliani comedy hour after about a certain point in time.
Stand up. I tell you what, a real hero. We're going to take a short break. We're going to get the state senator that really had the inflection point, Senator Mastriano, who's a 31-year Army colonel, veteran. Just like Jack Posobiec is naval intelligence, he is military, he's Army intelligence. We'll have them thrash it out in the next segment. Jack Posobiec, Stephen K. Bannon. Short break. Be back in the War Room in a moment.
Spread the word all through Hong Kong. We will fight till they're all gone. We rejoice when there's no more. Let's take down the CCP.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let it hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
This is a very special segment of the War Room. We've got naval intelligence, a native of Pennsylvania, Jack Posobiec, and we have from our guest is Army intelligence Colonel Mastriano, who was the hero who set the hearing up in Gettysburg the other day. So, Colonel, a state senator, by the way, Colonel, give us an update on the resolution on extending you guys past Monday so that you still have jobs, that you can continue to work this problem. Where are we in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and where is leadership to step up? It's great to have Dawn Kiefer. It's great to have you. You guys are warriors. Where are the guys that are supposed to be the leadership of the Republican Party in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
So as far as the status of the legislation, and I'll hit that on next. So that the House pushed theirs out a couple hours ago. The Senate one, I'm waiting to see it punch up on my email any second here, hopefully soon. It's the stronger version, but here's the bottom line. Who cares which version? We got to run something across the line. And the intent of these two versions in the House and Senate, of course, this resolution is to reassert our authority to pick the electors for president. And so that was something that the General Assembly back in 1938 had surrendered over to the popular vote. But I was assuming, of course, that our Secretary of State and Governor would oversee a fair election. So thank God we have Article 2, Section 1-2 in the U.S. Constitution to go by to reassert our privilege as General Assembly and oversee the electors, that they go to the right person. Now, on the other side here, it's a bit mixed on leadership. I'm not going to name names, but I think one of the four is fully on board. The other three, I think they're inclined for a less strong resolution in this approach, because they haven't done anything like this in recorded memory. And obviously it's a bold step, but it's a step we need to take. I think, we need to start acting like co-equal members of this government. Too many times we stand aside. We see bad things happening in Pennsylvania under Wolf in the past. General Assembly hasn't done much. So let's act like we're co-equals as we are constitutionally. And this is one way we could do that, and we need to do it.
If this doesn't get passed, tell me what the other options are. What happens to really get, the media keeps saying this is baseless. Well, I watched 3 hours of your hearing the other day, and it certainly didn't seem baseless to me, and it didn't sound baseless. It seemed baseless to 74 million Trump voters, because now even the Hill's reporting, I think it's 3%, 0 to 3% of that 74 million believe Biden's illegitimate and illegal. President Trump is now thrown down. He's saying, "Hey, Biden, you want to bring the country together? You got to step in here and prove that your votes are certifiable." Yep. But this all goes back to you guys, and it turns out they're Republicans. So where first off, you guys shut down on Monday. Where is it even? What's working through to keep you guys active past Monday that can even be a participant in this?
Yeah, I mean, this is a strange rule here that's been in place well before I was even in the Army 30 years ago. And so basically every 2 years there's this month-long lame duck session. That you would have a co-equal member of a government put itself out of power for an entire month is ridiculous. So what we have to do is, because the terms of all the previous senators and representatives who didn't win their office or what have you, or new to the office. The old ones are gone on Monday. That's their last day, period, constitutionally. And so we have to figure out a way on Tuesday or Wednesday to bring in a new body to get us sworn in so we can stay in the saddle. And so there is some movement on that. I don't think it's going to be for a few days, though. And Steve, as you rightly said, there's no time. We have no time to play. And so it's going to be interesting to see how we get the leadership to pull this off here, to bring in the new Republicans and new senators. And that's a good thing. We have a couple more in the House and Senate coming in. So we have a more conservative, stronger body and maybe a better chance of getting this resolution passed. But figuring out how to get us seated, it's going to be a big deal.
So what do you tell me next week as this thing rolls out? Because if you guys go out of business on Monday, you're just out of it as a player. That means the only resolution they have is the courts. What probability do you put that you guys will be extended and actually be a participant here?
It's probably 50-50, but here's the thing. And people of Pennsylvania, reach out to your representatives and senators and get them on board. So don't waste your time with me. You got me here, and I'm going to do everything I can to get this done. But obviously, we need a majority of the Republican House and Senate caucuses to stand up and say, hey, seat us now. This is a state of emergency. Let's go ahead and operate underneath Wolf's state of emergency. Actually, use that against him for the first time, since he's been using it as a sword of Damocles over the rest of the state. Let's say emergency orders. We're going in. We're going to swear in. We're not going to wait for all these other things. The beautiful thing is Wolf and Bookvar, our Secretary of State, has already certified the results, which obviously they shouldn't have since there's a lot of shenanigans. But we can go in with their certification, seat ourselves there, and then probably disarm them and say the certification was not viable because there's so many questions about the security of the election.
Sir, how do people get access to you? I know Twitter had you down. I think they put you back up. There's some fake Twitter accounts. So how do you go? If people want to go see the real deal, where should they go?
So on Twitter, it's Senator Mastriano. You can't miss that one there. And on Facebook, it's Senator Doug Mastriano, and it's also Doug Mastriano Fighting for Freedom. Those are the only pages. There's a lot of guys and gals, obviously, with spare time on their hands creating fake accounts. Stay away from those.
Colonel, thank you very much for joining us here in War Room. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Massive fight up there in Pennsylvania. So, Posobiec, I don't get it. In Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Arizona, we essentially control the legislative branch, and we can't even get a hearing, right? We got to be honest with people. We can't get a hearing. We got interesting caucus meetings, or like in Arizona on Monday, which is great. It's movement, but where we control these in Pennsylvania's, unless they pull a rabbit out of the hat this weekend, the senator and these other guys are just irrelevant.
Look,
because they've shut down.
I was going to use an idiom, but I don't know which. I was going to talk about kindling, right? But I don't even know if that idiom is allowed to be used to just say you need to light kindling in a political sense, right? And I think that's what some of these preliminary motions are, because you're having a situation now where, the venue is not in the house, the state, or the state house like it should be, right? It should be there in Harrisburg in the state house. But we can get what we can get. That's where it gets started, when you can show these people. And by the way, people have been writing off Rudy. They've been talking down to him. They've been saying everything under the sun about Rudy, and I've heard every word of it. But you know what? Those witnesses that came up in Pennsylvania, in Gettysburg, that sat down, they're from Delaware County, they're from Philadelphia, they were data analysts, they were lawyers, they were serious people who had serious problems with what went on. They had their own stories, some of them in terms of the chain of custody that was lost, some of them in terms of things they said. And look, we're told, remember, even under the Obama administration, do you see something, say something. Remember, see something, say something. These people all saw things. And you can say what you want about Rudy Giuliani or Jack Posobiec, and you can say a lot about Steve Bannon, sure, but and Raheem Kassam, because he's not here to defend himself. But what are you going to say about all these witnesses? And what are you going to say when they all come forward for 3 hours?
Well, Michigan has 250. He has 250.
250 in Michigan. They're going to Arizona.
Are
they all making it up?
We won in 2016 because I reached out to Ryan, so we put a coalition together, and the establishment got what they wanted. They got judges. They got deregulation. They got a tax cut. The deplorables got or started down the path of getting what we wanted, particularly confrontation with CCP, bringing manufacturing jobs back, more economic nationalism, the start of a border wall. I could go through, a detailed list.
We remember the whiteboard,
but
Steve.
it was a
We remember the whiteboard.
It was a coalition. The establishment in these states has to understand something. If you do not stand up now, it's over.
They're all going to get. By the way, they're all going to get primary.
You're all going to get. You're all
every
gone,
single
You're
one. Of
all
them.
gone. If you think you're going, they're not going to forget about it. First off, we're going to make sure people don't forget about it every day.
Eric Cantor, remember Eric Cantor?
Remember Eric Cantor.
That's the model.
But here's the point. You have to stand up today to have this coalition go forward. If you do not stand up, and what is outrageous, given the level of work and detail, and American heroes are coming forward at risk to their professional lives, their personal lives, and their family, to not give them a venue to be able to show how this election was stolen and that Donald Trump is the legitimate president of the United States and should be the one that is inaugurated at noon on the 20th of January, 2021.
Steve, I got two real quick comments
Go ahead.
on Senator Mastriano. First, number one, I was looking over his deployment history, his duty stations a little bit there. I wanted to ask him this, maybe if I get him back on. It wouldn't surprise me if he overlapped with General Flynn a little bit. I think it wouldn't surprise me if those two know each other because you can see some of that same energy.
In Army Intel, you don't spend 30 years in it.
It sounded like they may have been colonels together or mate or whatever.
Well, and Flynn is also a legendary. I mean, guy becomes a 3-star.
No. I served under Flynn.
Runs
DIA.
DIA. Yeah.
So I think that's just an interesting thing. But then secondly is, Steve, I've been from Pennsylvania. I was born in Pennsylvania. I've never seen a state senator work like this. I've never seen getting a state rep seat is the second best job in Pennsylvania, and the number one job is state senator because you're making 6 figures. These people, I don't know if people know how sweet of a gig this is. You get 6 figures, you get per diem, you get travel, you get a car that's paid for by the taxpayers, and you don't have to do anything. You can do nothing, and it's 6-year. I think it's a 4-year term actually, a 4-year term in Pennsylvania. You coast. You maybe help get something signed. You go to the zoo, you get some money. You work out some earmarks for the people, and then you go to the park, right? This is a guy, Mastriano. I've never seen a state senator fight like this before, and that's why people are talking about him for governor right now. That's why people are throwing his name around out there. That's why he's got hundreds of thousands on Facebook and otherwhere. It's because this is a guy who fights. And that's all he's doing. He's fighting. He said he's doing his job. He took an oath and he meant it. You don't spend 31 years in the U.S. Army serving an oath that you didn't mean to keep. No, he meant it. So when he switched over, he continued his service. Now he's serving at the state level. We know that he means to keep his oath. And so that's what all he's doing is putting the challenge out to every other state elected official in the United States of America, the 50 constituent states that we have. Follow your oath.
Real quickly, because the next segment we're going to deal with the 925th anniversary of the kickoff of the First Crusade.
And we got to finish up Wisconsin because they're doing it.
Give me some Wisconsin scoop right now.
It's out. It's done.
Oh, it is.
In Milwaukee.
In Milwaukee,
it's done. I said it would be out by the end of the show. Here we are. We got 14 minutes left. It is
Dane
out.
County's not going to be till Sunday.
Dane County Sunday.
Okay,
because Dane County is the one. Its attention to detail.
Do you have a read? Do you have a read on Milwaukee right now?
It's 19,480 is the subset of the indefinitely confined numbers. That's the largest subset. That's only one county.
The ICs.
That's almost your entire Biden's margin of victory in one county.
Right.
It's only his entire
And you still don't have the early vote.
And the media is getting it wrong. They're saying, the recount is just confirming Biden's victory. So we knew that. The point of the recount wasn't to go over it again. The point of the recount was to re-examine the ballots as a prelude to the court case. That's the reason for the recount. They're not even reporting those numbers.
Or you could go back to the assembly. You do have a choice of going there, right?
That's right. Now this is evidence gathering. You're in the collection phase.
Listen, they're running and hiding from this. They were caught red-handed stealing. Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. We're going to return in a moment to War Room Pandemic.
Everything's just beginning, but the games you want to play, bring it to the end, just watch and see. It's all started, everything's begun, and you are over. Cause we're taking down the CCP. Spread the word all through Hong Kong. We will fight till they're all gone. We rejoice when there's no more. Let's take down the CCP. They have all
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
We have breaking news from Twitter, Mr. Jack Posobiec.
Twitter is gone in the pages of Newsweek to Colonel Mastriano, who was just on here. Twitter says Republican State Senator Doug Mastriano's account was suspended in error. It was an error, just an error.
I want to say this happened after we had him on the show and talked about this. Just saying.
All the errors go in one direction.
Okay, 925 years ago, on the 27th of November of the year 1095, in a field in Clermont, France, Pope Urban II, gave a clarion call to go to the defense of Constantinople, which had been under attack by rising forces, I think the Seljuk Turks and others, and he gave a clarion call to go free the Holy Land. One of the best books out there about the military conflict between Islam and the West is Sword and Scimitar by Raymond Ibrahim. I want to bring in Raymond now. Raymond, thank you for joining us today. In a weekend, we're going to be fighting all weekend to try to get a fair and legal vote here in the Republic of the United States. I want to go back in time and talk about this broader conflict that's been going on. Tell us what happened on that day, and why was it people make it like we're the Judeo-Christian West were the aggressors. We were actually in response to an onslaught. Was that not correct, sir?
Absolutely. Good to be with you again, Stephen. What you're referring to, the Council of Clermont and the First Crusade, is actually the pivotal event of the entire Middle Ages, and this is well recognized. And I'll summarize it too, but I'll also tie it with what's going on today, because there's a lot of fake news about the Crusades as well. So as you said, in 1095, Pope Urban called the First Crusade. What was happening in the context, which we rarely hear, is that the Turks, the Seljuk Turks, had overrun Asia Minor, what we call today Turkey, because they ended up conquering it, of course. Asia Minor was one of the most ancient Christian regions in the world. That's where St. Paul wrote many of his epistles to. And so right at that time, literally the accounts talk of hundreds of thousands of Christians being not just killed, but sadistically tortured, burned alive, flayed, and of course, mass, sex slavery, rapes, abductions, destroying churches, literally thousands of churches. In fact, this is connected to what's happening in Armenia right now, in Azerbaijan, because right then, around that time, right around 1060, right before the Crusades, Armenia was being destroyed by the Turks, and its capital, Ani, the historic capital of Armenia, was burned to the ground with over 1,001 churches torched as well. So that's the background. And the emperor, the Byzantine emperor, contacted the Pope and pled with him and said, please help us. We're both Christians. And you see what's happening. And at the same time, the Holy Sepulchre, the Church of Resurrection, where Christ rose, where there's a church in Jerusalem, was also under attack. It had been under attack before that. In fact, it was destroyed and it was rebuilt again. And so it was a real mess, and pilgrims were being murdered and mauled and extorted, and they would cut their bellies open to see if they're hiding gold and treasure and this sort of thing. So that's the background. So Pope Urban calls for the Crusades, and it had an amazing effect. It just snowballed, and Christians from Western Europe, from everywhere, mostly from France, which is, again, ironic, because really the Crusades, not just the first one, were always spearheaded by the French. And it's kind of interesting to see where the descendants are right now.
France, it's gone through the Napoleonic Wars and World War I, so it's not the France that you had. But I mean, in 1066, what the Normans take over, defeat the Saxons. You've got then 1095. These were principally Norman knights, right? I mean, this was a call to arms that ended up being the field army that ended up being the First Crusade was predominantly by the Normans and the French, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. The Normans, you have especially Bohemond, who takes over Antioch, but you definitely have a lot of the Franks. In fact, the Arabic word for the Crusaders till today is Franks, because they basically conflated any white Christian from Europe as a Frank, because that was the predominance originally. But again, it like you say, it depends on what you mean by Franks. King Richard was actually considered a Frank because of his sort of through his mother's line. At any rate, it was from Muslim eyes, it was just European Christians coming and doing what they're doing. And it's just interesting because the message that the Pope imparted was basically what you're doing is you are fulfilling Christ's two greatest commandments, God's two greatest commandments, really, which is love God with all your heart. And that's what you're doing by rescuing the Holy Sepulchre and the Holy Land because it was being completely desecrated. And love your fellow man. And that's what you're doing by rescuing the Eastern Christians. But I know because time is so limited, I'd like to just show you now how all that's been changed. This issue that we're dealing with and what you're talking about today, and what's plaguing us, fake news and the media not wanting to acknowledge what's really happening and suppressing it. This goes way back, and it's really especially deeply entrenched in academia. So what I've told you right now, you're not going to come across this in any well-respected, academic, prestigious publication. They're going to give you a completely different narrative about for 400 years from the rise of Islam in the 7th century up until the Crusades, everything was fine until an evil papal play and greed and, hypocritical Christians decided to go and just ruin it all and attack and kill Muslims. And until today, Muslims are angry because of the Crusades, and that's why they're killing people, including in 9/11. That is actually, believe it or not, the standard version that you will get in an academic setting about the Crusades, when in fact, it's, as I told you, and it's what's happening today, because if you look at what's happening today with Muslims, especially to Christians and Christian minorities, it's the same story. So it's a very unwavering continuity, and all around it, it's spread past and present with fake news.
Raymond, we've got to wrap up, but the book is Sword and Scimitar. It is a military history of Islam in the West. Victor Davis Hanson and Daniel Pipes on the cover recommended. I don't think you could get too higher recommendations. Raymond, Ibrahim, thank you very much for joining us on War Room.
Thanks very much, Stephen.
The signal, not the noise. And the signal, hey, you got to get down and focus on this. You see what's happening in France right now. Okay.
God wills it.
God wills it. We're gonna be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. It's a complete throwdown. I wish we had as much bravery and courage that the Norman Knights had that we had in these with these elected Republican establishment. But as my co-host says, courage is contagious.
Courage is the new pandemic.
It's the new pandemic.
Vienna.
Thank you very much. We'll see you at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.